I should have known something was wrong when my husband started answering my emails about the foundation. My name is Desiree, and 18 months ago, I buried my 10-year-old daughter. Annalise died in a car accident on a Tuesday morning, wearing her favorite purple dress and clutching the stuffed elephant I'd bought her the weekend before. The driver who hit us walked away without a scratch. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital, and when I finally came home, the silence in our house was so loud I thought it might kill me. "You need to do something," my mother-in-law Natasha told me one afternoon, standing in my kitchen like she owned it. "Sitting here wallowing isn't helping anyone." I wanted to throw my coffee mug at her perfectly styled head, but Isaac squeezed my shoulder. "Mom's right, Des. Annalise would want you to help other kids." That's how the Annalise Foundation started. Not from some grand vision, but from the desperate need to make my daughter's death mean something. We began small, funding art programs in underserved schools, because Annalise had loved to paint. Within 6 months, we'd raised over $2 million. Grief, it turns out, is incredibly motivating for donors. "This is amazing, babe," Isaac said, scrolling through donation reports on his laptop. "Look at these numbers." I was proud. For the first time since the accident, I felt like I could breathe. The foundation gave me purpose, gave me a reason to get out of bed. Annalise's memory was helping other children create beautiful things. But then Isaac started showing up to meetings I hadn't invited him to. "I thought you could use the support," he'd say, settling into the chair next to mine at the conference table. "You've been working so hard." Natasha appeared next, always with suggestions. "Desiree, dear, you really should consider expanding the board. Isaac has such good business sense, and I have connections in the philanthropic community." I said yes because I was tired, because grief is exhausting, and having help felt like a gift. I signed the papers they put in front of me, trusting that my husband and his mother wanted what was best for Annalise's legacy. The first red flag should have been when they stopped asking my opinion about major decisions. "We've decided to pivot the mission statement," Isaac announced during what I thought was a routine board meeting. "Focus more on educational infrastructure instead of just arts programs." "We?" I asked. "The board," Natasha said smoothly. "We took a vote last week." "What vote?" "I wasn't at any vote." "You were having one of your difficult days," she replied, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Isaac thought it best not to burden you." My phone calls started going to voicemail. Emails got delayed responses, or none at all. When I walked into the foundation offices, conversations stopped. Autumn, our program coordinator and one of the few people I trusted completely, started giving me worried looks. "Desiree," she said one afternoon, cornering me by the copy machine, "can we talk? Privately?" We went to the coffee shop across the street. Autumn fidgeted with her cup, not meeting my eyes. "Something's not right with the finances," she said finally. "There are expenses I don't understand. Big ones." "What kind of expenses?" "Travel, entertainment, a consulting fee to some company I've never heard of." She pulled out her phone, showing me a screenshot. $50,000 for strategic planning services from Clayton Consulting Group. My blood went cold. Clayton Consulting Group? I looked it up. It's registered to Natasha. That night, I tried to access the foundation's financial records from home. My login didn't work. When I called our IT guy, he stammered something about system updates and temporary restrictions. Isaac was in the shower when his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked, but something made me pick it up. The text was from his mother. "She's getting suspicious. We need to move faster." I screenshot it before I could think twice, my hands shaking. The next morning, I got an email from Autumn with the subject line, "Urgent. You need to see this." Inside was a single line. "Meet me at the office early tomorrow. Bring a flash drive. There's something you absolutely need to see about the foundation finances, and I don't think we have much time." I stared at the screen, My daughter's smiling face looking back at me from the foundation's website header. Annalise had trusted me to keep her safe, and I'd failed. Now someone was stealing from her memory, and I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who. The worst part? I was pretty sure my own husband was leading the charge. I arrived at the foundation office at 7 a.m., an hour before anyone else was supposed to be there. Autumn was already waiting, pacing by the front desk with a stack of papers clutched against her chest. "Thank God you came," she said, unlocking the conference room. "I've been up all night going through these." She spread the documents across the table like evidence at a crime scene. Bank statements, invoices, expense reports, all stamped with official foundation letterhead. "Look at this." Autumn pointed to a highlighted line. $15,000 for a donor appreciation dinner at Le Bernardin. For 12 people. I picked up the receipt. $1,200 per person? What were they eating? Gold? It gets worse. She flipped to another page. $25,000 for office renovations to some contractor I've never heard of. But our office hasn't been renovated. My stomach dropped as I scanned the expenses. Designer furniture that never appeared. Consulting fees to companies that didn't seem to exist. Travel expenses for trips I'd never authorized. "How much total?" I asked. "In the last 6 months? Nearly $400,000. I sank into a chair. 400,000. That's enough to fund art programs for 50 schools. Desiree, there's more. Autumn's voice was barely a whisper. I found wire transfers, big ones, to offshore accounts. She showed me a bank statement with my signature at the bottom, except I'd never signed it. The handwriting was close, but not quite right. They forged my signature. "I think so. And look at the account number." She pointed to a series of digits. I cross-referenced it with some corporate filings. It's registered to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. Guess who's listed as the beneficial owner? I didn't need to guess. Natasha. The office door chimed, and we both froze. Isaac's voice echoed from the lobby. "Des? Your car's outside? What are you doing here so early?" Autumn quickly gathered the papers, shoving them into a folder. "Back exit," she whispered. But it was too late. Isaac appeared in the conference room doorway, his hair still damp from the shower, wearing the concerned husband expression he'd perfected over the years. "There you are. I was worried when I woke up and you were gone." His eyes shifted to Autumn, then to the folder in her hands. "What's going on?" "Just reviewing some program reports," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "At 7 in the morning?" He stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of his cologne, the expensive stuff he'd started wearing recently. "Autumn, don't you think it's a bit early to be bothering Desiree with work stuff?" "She asked me to," Autumn began. "I'm sure she did." Isaac's smile didn't reach his eyes. "But you know how she's been lately. The stress, the grief. Sometimes she asks for things that aren't necessary." Heat flashed through my chest. "Excuse me? Babe, you know what I mean. You've been pushing yourself too hard. Maybe you should take a step back. Let the board handle the day-to-day operations." "The board that votes on things without telling me?" Isaac's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "We discussed this. You were having a rough week, and we didn't want to add to your stress." "By making major decisions about my daughter's foundation without me?" "Our daughter's foundation," he corrected. "And it's not just yours anymore, Des. We're all invested in making it successful." Autumn cleared her throat. "I should get going. Let you two talk." "Actually," Isaac said, his voice taking on a sharper edge, "maybe we should all talk. Autumn, I've been meaning to discuss your recent overtime hours. The board is concerned about budget efficiency." The threat was subtle, but clear. Autumn's face went pale. She had 2 kids and a mortgage. She couldn't afford to lose this job. "I understand," she said quietly, clutching the folder tighter. After she left, Isaac turned to me with that same fake concern. "Des, I'm worried about you. You're seeing problems that aren't there." Maybe you should talk to someone. You mean like a therapist? So you can have me declared mentally incompetent? That's not. Where's this coming from? But his eyes flickered, just for a second. Guilt, maybe? Or calculation? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Coffee shop across the street. Now, come alone. D. Daria. My former best friend who'd stopped returning my calls 6 months ago. I have to go, I said, pushing past Isaac. Des, wait. We need to talk about this. About your paranoia. I stopped at the door. My paranoia? You're seeing conspiracies everywhere. It's not healthy. Then explain the wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. Isaac's face went completely blank. For just a moment, the mask slipped, and I saw something cold and calculating underneath. I don't know what you're talking about, he said finally. But he did. I could see it in his eyes. I walked out without another word, my hands shaking as I crossed the street to where Daria was waiting, looking like she hadn't slept in days. We need to talk, she said. About Isaac, about Natasha, about what they're really doing to the foundation. You know? I know enough. She glanced back at the office building. And I know you're in serious trouble. Daria looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She kept glancing over her shoulder like someone might be watching us. I should have called you months ago, she said, stirring her coffee with shaking hands. But Natasha, she has a way of making you think you're doing the right thing. What are you talking about? She recruited me, said you were having a breakdown, that the foundation needed stable leadership. She made it sound like we were helping you. My chest tightened. Helping me how? By taking over the financial decisions, the strategic planning. She said you were too emotional to make rational choices about Annalise's legacy. And you believed her? Daria's face crumpled. She showed me things, Des. Emails where you sounded unstable, rambling about conspiracy theories, accusing people of stealing. She said you'd been sending them to donors. I never sent any emails like that. I know that now. But at the time, she pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages. Look at this. She sent it to me 3 weeks ago. The email was from my foundation address, but I'd never written it. It was full of paranoid accusations against board members, rambling paragraphs about people plotting against me. It sounded like the ravings of someone having a complete mental breakdown. She faked this. She faked all of them. I found the original drafts on her computer when I was helping her with some correspondence last week. She wrote them herself, then sent them from your account. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too hot. How long has this been going on? Months, maybe since the beginning. Daria leaned forward. Des, they're not just stealing money. They're building a case to have you removed completely. Natasha's been documenting everything. Your erratic behavior, your inability to handle stress. She's got a whole file. A file? Medical records, witness statements, those fake emails. She's been talking to lawyers about having you declared mentally incompetent to run the foundation. The room started spinning. She can't do that. She can if she has enough evidence. And Isaac's backing her up on everything. He's been telling people you've been having episodes, that you've threatened him. I've never threatened anyone. I know, but she's got it all documented. Dates, times, witnesses, who will swear they saw you acting unstable. My phone buzzed. A text from Isaac. Where are you? Mom wants to meet with us this afternoon about foundation business. They're moving fast, Daria said, reading over my shoulder. The meeting this afternoon, it's not about foundation business. It's about having you removed from the board. How do you know? Because I helped plan it. Her voice broke. God, Des, I'm so sorry. I thought I was helping you. Natasha made it sound like an intervention, like we were saving you from yourself. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. I have to get back to the office. I have to access those files before. You can't. They changed all the passwords yesterday, and they've got security watching for you. Security? Natasha hired a firm, said you'd been making threats, that she was concerned for everyone's safety. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. My own husband had painted me as dangerous, unstable, a threat to the foundation I'd built in my daughter's memory. There's more, Daria said quietly. They're planning a press conference, tomorrow morning, to announce your removal and the new direction of the foundation. They can't just. They can. Isaac's your husband, he has legal standing, and with Natasha's documentation of your mental state, they can make a case that you're not fit to run a charitable organization. My phone rang. Natasha's name on the screen. Don't answer it, Daria whispered, but I did. I had to hear her voice, had to know if I could detect the lies, now that I knew the truth. Desiree, darling, where are you? Isaac's worried sick. I'm sure he is. We need to talk. About the foundation, about your future with the organization. There are some concerns that need to be addressed. What kind of concerns? Well, your recent behavior has been troubling. The late-night emails, the accusations against staff members. People are worried about you. People like who? The board, the donors. Even some of the families we serve have expressed concern about the foundation's leadership. Lies. All lies. But delivered in that smooth, concerned tone that made them sound reasonable. I'll be at the office in an hour, Natasha continued. I think it's time we had an honest conversation about what's best for everyone involved. She hung up before I could respond. Daria grabbed my arm. Don't go. It's a trap. I have to. If I don't show up, they'll use it as more evidence that I'm unstable. And if you do show up, they'll record everything you say and twist it against you. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. This is Livia, Isaac's sister. We need to talk. I know what my mother and brother have done. Meet me at Riverside Park, by the fountain. Come alone. I showed Daria the message. It could be another trap, she said. Or it could be the only ally I have left in that family. I stood up, my legs unsteady. Everything I'd built, everything I'd done to honor Annalise's memory, was being stolen from me by the people I'd trusted most. Des, Daria called as I headed for the door. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Natasha doesn't just destroy people, she buries them. Livia was sitting on a bench by the fountain, smoking a cigarette with shaking hands. Isaac's younger sister had always been the black sheep of the family, too honest for Natasha's taste, too independent for Isaac's comfort. You came, she said, stubbing out the cigarette. I wasn't sure you would. Your text said you know what they've done. I know more than that. She pulled out a manila envelope. I know what they're planning to do next. Inside were photocopies of legal documents, petitions for guardianship, medical evaluations I'd never consented to, a psychiatric assessment dated last week that I'd never attended. How did you get these? Mom keeps everything in her home office. She thinks I'm too much of a screw-up to pay attention, but I've been watching, listening. Livia lit another cigarette. She's been planning this for months, Des, since right after you started the foundation. Why? Because you were getting too much attention, too much credit. Mom can't stand it when someone else is the hero of the story. I flipped through the papers. There was a letter from a psychiatrist I'd never met, detailing my severe depression and delusional thinking. Another from Isaac, describing incidents of erratic behavior that had never happened. This psychiatrist, Dr. Morrison, I've never seen him. He's a friend of Mom's, owes her some favors from when she helped fund his clinic. Livia took a long drag. She's got people everywhere, Des. Judges, doctors, social workers. She's been building her network for decades. And Isaac's going along with this? Isaac does whatever Mom tells him. Always has. Livia's voice turned bitter. You think you married a man, but you married a puppet. Mom's been pulling his strings since we were kids. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Special Agent Leonardo Hunt, FBI Financial Crimes Division. I believe you may have information relevant to an ongoing investigation. Can we meet? I showed Livia the message. Her eyes widened. Holy shit. Someone reported them? Who would? I stopped. Autumn. She must have taken those financial records to the FBI. Good. Because what I'm about to show you is going to make you want to burn their whole world down. She pulled out her phone, scrolling to a voice recording. I set up an app to record conversations in Mom's office. Listen to this. Natasha's voice came through the speaker, clear and cold. The psychiatric evaluation will be the final piece. Once we have her declared incompetent, Isaac gets full control of the foundation assets. Isaac's voice. What about the donors? Some of them specifically gave money because of Desiree's story. We'll spin it. Tragic widow, overcome by grief, unable to handle the responsibility. We're the heroes stepping in to save her daughter's legacy. And the money we've already moved? Untraceable. By the time anyone thinks to look, it'll be buried in so many shell companies they'll never find it. The recording continued for another 10 minutes. They discussed forging more documents, bribing officials, even planting drugs in my car if they needed additional evidence of instability. Jesus Christ, I whispered. There's more. Livia swiped to another recording. This one's from last night. Natasha again. The press conference is set for tomorrow morning. Channel 7, Channel 12, and the Tribune will all be there. I've already given them the story. Devoted mother-in-law and husband forced to take over charity from unstable founder. What if she fights back? With what? We control the narrative. We control the evidence. By tomorrow afternoon, Desiree will be a cautionary tale about grief and mental illness, and we'll be the compassionate family trying to honor Annalise's memory despite her mother's breakdown. I felt sick. They weren't just stealing money. They were stealing my daughter's memory, twisting it into their own profit scheme. Why are you helping me? I asked Livia. Because I'm tired of watching Mom destroy people. She did it to my dad, she's done it to Isaac, and now she's doing it to you. Livia's hands were shaking as she lit another cigarette. And because Annalise was the only person in this family who was genuinely good, she deserves better than this. My phone rang. Agent Hunt. Ms. Desiree, I got your number from Autumn Romero. She's provided us with some very interesting financial documents. I think we should meet. When? Now, if possible. This is time sensitive. I understand there's a press conference scheduled for tomorrow morning. You know about that? We know about a lot of things. Can you meet me at the Federal Building downtown? And bring anyone who might have additional evidence. I looked at Livia. Are you willing to testify against your own family? She took a long drag, then crushed the cigarette under her heel. They stopped being my family the day they decided to steal from a dead child's memory. Then let's go burn their world down. As we walked toward my car, Livia grabbed my arm. Des, you need to know, once we do this, there's no going back. Mom doesn't just lose gracefully. She destroys everything on her way down. Good, I said, because I'm done playing nice. The FBI building loomed ahead of us, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. They'd underestimated me, dismissed me as a grieving mother too broken to fight back. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The press conference was held in the Foundation's main conference room, the same room where I'd first announced the charity 18 months ago. Now it felt like walking into my own execution. I arrived 15 minutes early, hoping to catch Isaac or Natasha off guard, but they were already there. Isaac wore his best suit, the navy one I'd bought him for our anniversary. Natasha was in her power outfit, black blazer, pearl necklace, the smile she reserved for cameras. Desiree, Natasha's voice carried across the room. How wonderful that you could join us. The reporters turned to look at me, cameras already rolling. I recognized several faces from local news stations, plus a few I didn't know. Someone from the Tribune was setting up a recorder. I wouldn't miss it, I said, taking a seat in the back row. Isaac avoided my eyes, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Good. He should be nervous. Ladies and gentlemen, Natasha began, stepping up to the podium. Thank you for coming today. We're here to discuss some important changes to the Annalise Foundation. She launched into her prepared speech about the foundation's growth, its impact on the community, the need for stable, experienced leadership. Every word was carefully chosen, designed to paint me as the problem without saying it directly. Unfortunately, she continued, the foundation's founder has been struggling with some personal challenges. Grief is a powerful force, and sometimes it can cloud judgment, affect decision-making abilities. A reporter raised her hand. Are you saying Desiree is being removed from the foundation? We're saying that the board has voted to restructure leadership in a way that best serves the children we help. Isaac will be taking over as executive director, with myself as chairman of the board. What about Desiree's role? Isaac finally spoke up. My wife will always be honored as the foundation's founder, but right now, she needs to focus on her health and healing. The cameras swung toward me. I could feel the weight of their attention, the story they were already writing in their heads. Grieving mother loses control of daughter's charity. Desiree, called out a reporter from Channel 7. Do you have any comment on these changes? I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room was on me. This was my moment, maybe my only moment to tell the truth. I have a lot to say, actually. Natasha's smile tightened. Desiree, perhaps this isn't the best. No, I think this is exactly the right time. I walked toward the front of the room. You want to talk about the foundation's leadership? Let's talk about where the money's really going. Isaac stepped forward. Des, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. I pulled out my phone, opening the recording app. Would you like to hear what your mother really thinks about Annalise's legacy? Natasha's face went white. You can't. I hit play. Her voice filled the room, crystal clear. Once we have her declared incompetent, Isaac gets full control of the foundation assets. The reporters erupted. Cameras flashed. Phones came out. Everyone started talking at once. That's taken out of context, Natasha said, but her voice was shaking. Really? What about this part? I skipped ahead in the recording. By the time anyone thinks to look, it'll be buried in so many shell companies they'll never find it. Isaac grabbed my arm. Stop this. You're making a scene. I'm exposing the truth. I shook him off. You want to know about my mental health? I've been gaslighted for months by people I trusted. My own husband forged my signature to steal from my daughter's charity. That's not, Isaac started. $400,000, I said to the cameras. That's how much they've stolen so far. Wire transfers to offshore accounts, fake consulting fees, forged documents. Natasha moved toward the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what we've been dealing with. Paranoid delusions, wild accusations. Then explain this. I held up the bank statement Autumn had found. Your signature on a wire transfer for $50,000 to a Cayman Islands account. The room went dead silent. Natasha's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Security, Isaac called out. We need security in here. 2 men in suits appeared at the back of the room. I recognized them. The private security firm Natasha had hired. Ma'am, you need to come with us, one of them said, walking toward me. On what grounds? Trespassing, disturbing the peace, making threats. I haven't threatened anyone. You're clearly having an episode, Natasha said, her voice full of fake concern. Isaac, call Dr. Morrison. She needs immediate psychiatric evaluation. The security guards reached for my arms. The cameras kept rolling as they dragged me toward the door. Natasha's voice following me. This is exactly why the board had to act. As you can see, Desiree is not capable of rational decision-making. Let go of me! I struggled against their grip. Check the bank records. Check the wire transfers. But they were already pushing me out the door, past the reporters, past the cameras capturing every moment of my humiliation. Isaac followed us into the hallway. Des, please, let us help you. Help me? I stared at him in disbelief. You just had me dragged out of my own daughter's charity like a criminal. You're sick. You need treatment. I need my husband to stop stealing from our dead daughter. His face crumpled for just a moment, and I saw a flash of the man I'd married. But then Natasha appeared behind him, and the mask slipped back into place. Take her home, Natasha told the security guards. Make sure she doesn't hurt herself. As they dragged me toward the exit, I heard her voice drifting from the conference room. I'm sorry you all had to witness that. As you can see, we made the right decision for the foundation. The last thing I saw before they shoved me out the door was Livia standing in the lobby, her face pale with shock. She mouthed 2 words, I'm sorry. But it was too late for sorry. They'd just destroyed me in front of the entire city, and tomorrow morning, I'd be the cautionary tale Natasha had always planned to make me. The war was just beginning. The news coverage was brutal. By 6 p.m., I was the lead story on every local channel. Foundation founder removed after public outburst. The headlines painted me as unstable, dangerous, a grieving mother who'd lost touch with reality. I sat in Livia's apartment, watching my humiliation play on repeat. The footage made it look even worse than it felt. Me being dragged away by security while Isaac and Natasha stood there looking concerned and professional. Turn it off, Livia said, grabbing the remote. No, I need to see what they're saying. The Channel 7 anchor was interviewing some child psychology expert about complicated grief and how trauma can affect judgment. They showed a photo of Annalise, then cut to Isaac talking about getting my wife the help she needs. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. Reporters wanting comments, old friends asking if I was okay, a few nasty messages from people who believed the news coverage. Then Agent Hunt called. I saw the press conference, he said. Are you all right? I've been better. Can you meet me tonight? We need to move fast. After today's spectacle, they're going to accelerate their timeline. What timeline? The psychiatric hold. We intercepted communications between Natasha and Dr. Morrison. They're planning to have you committed tomorrow morning. The room started spinning. They can't do that. They can if they have the right paperwork. And Natasha has connections everywhere. His voice was grim. But we might have enough to stop them. Can you get to the federal building? I'll be there in 20 minutes. Livia drove me downtown, both of us silent. The FBI building felt different at night. Emptier, more serious. Agent Hunt met us in the lobby, a tall man with kind eyes and the tired look of someone who'd seen too much corruption. Thank you for coming, he said, leading us to a conference room. I have some updates. The table was covered with documents, photos, computer printouts, bank records, wire transfer receipts, corporate filings. It looked like the evidence board from a crime show. Your friend Autumn provided excellent documentation, Hunt said. But what really broke this open was the recordings from Livia. He played back portions of Natasha's conversations, the ones where she detailed the money laundering scheme. Her voice filled the room, cold and calculating. We've traced the shell companies, 7 different accounts in 3 countries, all controlled by Natasha or her associates. The total amount stolen is closer to $800,000. $800,000! I felt sick. That's just what we've found so far. Hunt pulled out another file. But here's the interesting part. This isn't her first time. We've been investigating Natasha for years, connected to other charity frauds. She has a pattern. He showed us photos of other victims. A cancer research foundation in Chicago, a veterans charity in Denver, an animal rescue in Phoenix. All the same story. Grieving or vulnerable founders manipulated out of control while Natasha and her network drained the accounts. She's done this before? At least 6 times that we can prove. Always the same method. Identify emotionally vulnerable founders, gain their trust, then systematically take control while building a case for their mental incompetence. Livia was staring at the photos. Jesus, how many people has she destroyed? Too many. But you're going to help us stop her. Hunt turned to me. We're ready to move, but we need your help with one final piece. What? Tomorrow morning, there's a board meeting scheduled. Emergency session to officially transfer all foundation assets to Isaac's control. We need you to be there. Are you insane? After today, they'll have security everywhere. They'll probably have me arrested the moment I walk in. Not if you're wearing this. He pulled out a small device, no bigger than a button. Recording device, FBI grade. We need them to incriminate themselves one more time, on tape, with witnesses present. It's too dangerous, Livia said. After what happened today, this is our only shot, Hunt interrupted. They're moving fast because they know we're on to them. If we don't act tomorrow, they'll disappear with the money, and you'll spend the next year fighting to get out of a psychiatric facility. My phone buzzed. A text from Daria. Emergency. They're planning something big for tomorrow. Can you meet? I showed Hunt the message. He nodded. Bring her in. We need all the inside information we can get. An hour later, Daria arrived looking terrified. She'd been crying, her makeup smeared, her hands shaking. They know I talked to you, she said. Natasha called me tonight. She knows I've been having doubts. What did she say? That I need to choose sides. That if I'm not with them tomorrow, I'm against them. Daria pulled out her phone. But I recorded the call. Hunt's eyes lit up. Play it. Natasha's voice came through the speaker, threatening and cold. Daria, darling, I hope you understand the position you're in. People who betray my trust tend to find themselves in very difficult situations. Legal troubles, financial problems, reputation issues. It would be such a shame if something like that happened to you. She threatened you, Hunt said. She did more than that. Daria scrolled to another recording. She told me exactly what they're planning for tomorrow. The next recording was even more damning. Natasha detailing how they'd have me committed, how Isaac would take full control of the foundation, how they'd use the charity as a front for laundering money from other schemes. This is it, Hunt said. This is enough to bring them down. But we still need that final recording tomorrow. What if something goes wrong? I asked. Then we'll be there to back you up. But Desiree? He looked me straight in the eye. This is your chance to get justice for Annalise, to make sure her memory isn't corrupted by these people. I thought about my daughter, about the foundation I'd built in her honor, about everything they'd stolen from her legacy. What do I need to do? Hunt smiled grimly. Show up to that board meeting. Let them think they've won, and then watch their world burn. As we left the FBI building, Livia grabbed my arm. Are you sure about this? No, but I'm sure about one thing. They picked the wrong mother to mess with. Tomorrow the war would end. One way or another. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. I arrived at 9:30, the FBI recording device hidden under my blazer, my heart hammering against my ribs. The foundation lobby was packed. More reporters than yesterday, plus several people I didn't recognize. Probably Natasha's planted witnesses. Security guards stood at every entrance. Ma'am, you can't be here, one of them said, stepping in front of me. I'm still a board member, I said loudly enough for the cameras to hear. I have a right to attend board meetings. Isaac appeared from the elevator, his face flushed. Des, what are you doing here? Attending the meeting where you steal my daughter's foundation. You're not well. You need help. The only thing I need is for you to stop lying. Natasha emerged from the conference room, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. Lawyers, probably. Desiree, how unexpected, she said with that fake smile. Though I'm not sure this is appropriate, given your condition. My condition. Dr. Morrison's evaluation was quite concerning. paranoid delusions, aggressive behavior, inability to distinguish reality from fantasy. I've never met Dr. Morrison. Of course you have. Last week. Don't you remember? Natasha's voice was full of false sympathy. The memory issues are part of the syndrome. The reporters were eating it up, cameras rolling as Natasha painted me as mentally ill. But I could see Livia and Daria in the crowd, both looking nervous but determined. "Well," I said, "since I'm here, why don't we have that board meeting?" Natasha's smile faltered for just a second. "I don't think, unless you're afraid of what might come up." Isaac grabbed my arm. "Des, please, don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder for who? The people stealing from children?" "That's enough," Natasha snapped. "Security, escort her out." "Actually," Livia said, stepping forward, "I'd like to hear what she has to say." Natasha whirled around. "Livia, this is not the time. I'm a board member too, Mom, and I think we should have this meeting. In public, with the cameras rolling." The reporters perked up. This was better than they'd hoped for. Family drama playing out in real time. "Fine," Natasha said through gritted teeth. "Conference room. 5 minutes." We filed into the same room where yesterday's disaster had unfolded. The reporters crowded in, cameras positioned for the best angles. I took a seat directly across from Isaac and Natasha, the recording device capturing every word. "This emergency meeting is called to order," Natasha began. "The purpose is to formalize the transfer of executive authority from Desiree to Isaac, given the founder's inability to continue in her role." "On what grounds?" I asked. "Medical grounds. Dr. Morrison's evaluation clearly states—" "Dr. Morrison, who I've never met. You met with him last Tuesday at 2 p.m. I was at Annalise's grave last Tuesday at 2 p.m., like I am every Tuesday." I pulled out my phone. "I have photos. Time-stamped." Natasha's jaw tightened. "Your memory issues are well documented." "By who? You?" I leaned forward. "Tell me, Natasha, what else have you documented? The wire transfers to the Cayman Islands? The fake consulting fees?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? Because I have recordings that say otherwise." The room went dead silent. Isaac's face had gone white. "What recordings?" Natasha asked, but I could hear the fear in her voice. "The ones where you discuss laundering money through shell companies, where you plan to have me committed so Isaac can take full control of the assets. That's impossible. You couldn't have—" She stopped, realizing what she'd just admitted. "Couldn't have what? Recorded you planning to steal from my daughter's charity?" The reporters were frantically taking notes. Cameras zoomed in on Natasha's face as she realized her mistake. "This is ridiculous," Isaac said, but his voice was shaking. "Des, you're having another episode." "Am I? Then explain this." I pulled out the bank statements, spreading them across the table. $800,000, stolen from children's programs and funneled into your mother's accounts. "Those are forgeries," Natasha said desperately. "Are they? Because the FBI doesn't think so." The conference room doors burst open. Agent Hunt strode in with 6 other federal agents, badges visible, handcuffs ready. "FBI, nobody move!" The room erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, people scrambled for exits. But the agents had positioned themselves at every door. "Natasha Clayton, you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy," Hunt announced, pulling out handcuffs. "This is outrageous," Natasha shrieked. "I demand to speak to my lawyer." "Isaac Clayton, you're also under arrest for the same charges." Isaac looked at me across the table, his face crumbling. "Des, please. Fix this. You can fix this, right?" "Fix what? The fact that you stole from our dead daughter?" "I never wanted— Mom made me— Isaac!" Natasha snapped as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "Don't say another word." But it was too late. The cameras had caught everything. Isaac's confession, Natasha's panic, The FBI arrests happening in real time. As they led Natasha away, she turned back to me, her face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You have no idea what you've done. Karma never forgets, Desiree. What goes around comes around, and you'll get exactly what you deserve. I already have, I said quietly. Justice for my daughter. The agents escorted them out as reporters shouted questions. The room slowly emptied until it was just me, Livia, and Daria, sitting around the conference table. It's over, Livia said, her voice barely a whisper. Is it? I asked. Your mother's right about one thing. Karma never forgets, and I just destroyed what was left of this family. Daria reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You did what you had to do. But as I sat in that empty conference room, surrounded by the wreckage of my marriage and my trust, I wondered if Natasha's final words would prove prophetic. What goes around comes around, and I was about to find out what that really meant. The media circus lasted 3 weeks. Every day brought new revelations about Natasha's charity fraud network, Isaac's complicity, the web of corruption they'd built over years. The foundation's phones rang constantly, donors wanting to know if their money was safe, families asking if programs would continue, reporters digging for more dirt. I sat in the foundation's conference room, now stripped of Natasha's expensive furniture and Isaac's motivational posters. Just me, Livia, Daria, and Autumn, trying to figure out how to rebuild something from the wreckage. The FBI recovered most of the stolen funds, Autumn said, scrolling through her laptop. 600,000 so far, with more expected as they traced the overseas accounts. What about the programs? I asked. The schools we were supposed to help this semester? On hold. The board voted to suspend all activities until the investigation concludes. The board that's left, you mean? Only 4 of the original 12 members remained. The others had resigned in embarrassment or been implicated in the fraud. Daria looked up from the stack of legal papers she'd been reviewing. The lawyers say you can restart the foundation under a new name. Clean slate, new board, proper oversight. And what about the families who trusted us? The kids who were counting on art supplies and music lessons? They'll understand, Livia said, once they know the truth. But I wasn't sure they would. Trust once broken doesn't just magically repair itself. Some of the families had already started their own fundraising efforts, not wanting to wait for us to sort out our mess. My phone buzzed. A text from Agent Hunt. Sentencing hearing scheduled for next month. Your victim impact statement will be important. The victim impact statement. I'd been putting off writing it, not sure what to say. How do you quantify the damage when someone steals not just money, but your daughter's memory? I need some air, I said, standing up. I walked to the small park across from the foundation offices, the same one where I used to bring Annalise after school. There was a bench under an oak tree where we'd sit and share snacks, where she'd show me her artwork, where she'd chatter about her friends and her dreams. I thought I might find you here. I turned to see Leonardo Hunt approaching, looking less formal than usual in jeans and a sweater. Agent Hunt, I didn't expect to see you. Leo, please, and I wanted to check on you before the sentencing hearing. He sat down beside me on the bench. How are you holding up? Honestly, I don't know. I got what I wanted. Justice, vindication, the truth coming out. But it doesn't feel like victory. Why not? Because my marriage is over. My husband is going to prison. My daughter's foundation is in ruins. And half the city thinks I'm either a hero or a vindictive bitch, depending on which news channel they watch. Leo was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? In my 15 years with the Bureau, I've seen a lot of victims. Most of them just want to move on, forget what happened, pretend it never occurred. And? You didn't do that. You fought back. You made sure they couldn't do this to anyone else. At what cost? At the cost of your comfort, your peace, your ability to pretend everything was fine. He turned to look at me. But you saved other families from going through what you went through. The Chicago Cancer Foundation, the Denver Veterans Charity, They're all getting their money back because you had the courage to speak up. I hadn't thought about that. In all the chaos and media attention, I'd forgotten about Natasha's other victims. The sentencing hearing, I said. What should I say? Whatever you need to say. For yourself, for Annalise, for all the people they hurt. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a blank piece of paper, trying to find the words. The house felt different now, emptier without Isaac's presence, but also cleaner somehow, like a weight had been lifted. I started writing, Your Honor, my name is Desiree, and I founded the Annalise Foundation to honor my daughter's memory after she died in a car accident. What the defendants did wasn't just steal money. They stole hope from children, trust from donors, and dignity from my daughter's legacy. But here's what they couldn't steal: the truth. The love that created the foundation in the first place. The community of people who still believe in helping kids create beautiful things. Natasha was right about one thing. Karma never forgets. But karma isn't just about punishment. It's about balance. It's about making sure that good intentions eventually triumph over greed. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for accountability. And I'm asking for the chance to rebuild what they tried to destroy. The next morning, Livia called. I saw the news about the sentencing. Are you ready? As ready as I'll ever be. Good, because I have something to tell you. I've been talking to some of the families from the programs we had to cancel. They want to help restart the foundation. Really? Really. They're organizing a fundraiser. Art for Annalise. Kids selling their artwork to raise money for new programs. I felt tears starting. She would have loved that. I know. And Des? I've been thinking about what Mom said, about karma coming back around. Yeah, maybe it already has. Maybe karma is a 10-year-old girl whose memory inspired people to keep fighting for what's right, even when everything falls apart. As I hung up the phone, I looked at the framed photo of Annalise on my mantel. She was holding a paintbrush, her face covered in purple paint, grinning like she'd just discovered the secret to happiness. Maybe Livia was right. Maybe karma wasn't about punishment or revenge. Maybe it was about love persisting, even in the darkest moments. Maybe it was about a mother's refusal to let her daughter's light be extinguished by other people's greed. The foundation would rise again. Different, smaller maybe, but built on something stronger than before. Built on truth instead of trust. Transparency instead of blind faith. And Annalise's memory would live on, not in offshore accounts or fake consulting fees, but in the art supplies we'd put in children's hands, the music lessons we'd fund, the creativity we'd nurture. That was karma. That was justice. That was love winning in the end.